Welcome to Revlog, where this week we get Michael Allen.
Hello.
First time ever on Revlog, right?
That's right.
That's a big deal. It's
Here
his
we go.
debut. Yeah.
Glad to be here.
Look at you being hospitable,
Yes.
welcoming our newcomer here.
Welcome to Revlog.
I've seen your show many times.
Don't I? Yeah,
Many
you see.
times.
Don't I sound warm and inviting?
Always.
Michael was binge watching all morning to see how to interact with you. I hope you learned something.
I learned a lot.
We haven't been canceled yet, so
That's right.
But a lot of people have turned it off.
Yeah.
No, Pastor Aaron's still out. He's still on a mission choir tour, and so we've got Michael in his seat today. So grateful for that. Today we're in John 9, 1 through 3. A significant and critical interaction with Jesus and his disciples here. Bryan, you get us started. What's your initial reaction to this text?
Such a well-known text. It's one of the premier. If you line up, the best of, Jesus's miracles, this would certainly make that cut. And I love how the differing perspectives are juxtaposed here of the disciples and of Jesus. And we're talking about a human being. Jesus never loses sight of that. And of course, we're talking about the human being as a creation of God in this whole series, the Imago Dei.
Right.
What does it mean to be human? Jesus keeps that in the front of the picture there. This is a human being. The disciples see this more as as consequences or just a system of occurrences in this man's life.
And this would have been indicative of the cultural or societal opinion on this, right? They're coming by it honestly
exactly.
in that way.
And what they are, and what happens, or the upshot of all that is that when they see this man, they see the end of a process. Somebody sinned, somebody did something, and this man has ended up in this place. And Jesus turns that completely on its head, and he says, you see somebody that has ended up somewhere. But what's really happening here is this man is at the beginning of something.
Wow, that's good.
There's a beginning of some new revelation here. There's the beginning of life here. There's the beginning of a new kind of experience here, a new possibility. And I think that is, when we're looking at a human being, we can either see the end of a process or the beginning of a possibility. That's just what I see here.
No, that's great. I do love that. And one of the things I'm grateful for in Jesus is not only do we have this physical awakening in this blind man, but at the same time, there's a spiritual awakening happening in the disciples where they're beginning to see as Jesus sees.
That's the whole, if we can see like that, then he's done his work in our lives.
Yeah, amen. Michael says you read these verses. What was your initial reaction here to this text?
So my thoughts on this were, isn't it just like Jesus to ask this question, where even the disciples mention that this man was born blind?
Yeah.
They knew he was born blind,
Yeah.
but yet they are asking him and one another, so whose fault was it? Was it his? Mm-hmm. Was it his parents? How could it have been his before he was born?
Yeah, and that's one of the things we naturally do, right? We try to find fault. And
Exactly.
you're right. Like Bryan was using the term, it's an end. It's similar to say they're searching for the fault.
Mm-hmm.
And those who were at fault. And Jesus comes at it a completely different angle, doesn't he?
That's right. And that's how Jesus teaches us all the way through all of his parables and his questions, whose fault, if they're asking whose fault was it, and he's able to say, can't God's creations be just the way they are and be perfect the way that they are, because there's a reason for that.
Yeah, and then God's
Love
gonna use that for His glory, right? And Jesus sees him. That's kind of where you're going, I think. I mean, Jesus sees this great value in this man, right? They're kind of poking him as someone at fault, and Jesus kind of brings it around and says, "There's tremendous value in him, and
That's
the
right.
glory of God is going to be displayed
Yeah.
in this man." And y'all are worried about who's at fault here.
That's right.
Yeah.
Which is as we do, right? Because that would be the normal reaction of society in the disciples, and we do it all the time too. And Jesus helps us go a different direction with it.
Yeah, it's easy to see somebody and say, "Oh, okay, I get," and not even know the person. You know,
Yeah,
not
right.
we just make assumptions. Oh, I see what's happening here, or I get that, or this is one of those folks.
Right. And we're dismissive
And
of it.
right, exactly. And any kind of future for that person, or possibility, or any consideration from me that this is an entity who is greatly valued by God, goes out the window.
Yeah. Well, Brian, as you read this, what question came to mind?
Well, who am I looking at
Yeah.
when I look at a person?
Michael Allen.
What possibilities exist right there? And I can say, oh, I know who I'm looking at, and I've already concluded that this is the end of the line,
For that person.
for that person. And everything's already been decided, everything is already cut and dried. But if who am I looking at? Am I looking at the end, or am I looking at the beginning?
Yeah.
And I think that that's a question that I want to delve into more.
Yeah, I'm with you. And Jesus, by His Spirit, helps us to see people differently in that way. That we see there's this could be, maybe, the beginning of something holy and good
Yeah.
in their life.
Yes.
So, Michael, as you read these 3 verses, what question came to mind for you?
So the question that came to mind kind of connects back with 2 weeks ago when in Romans 8:28, the question was, do I believe that all things work together for good and according to God's purpose?
Yeah, that's a great point, Michael. This man had tragic circumstance, and Jesus says there's something good about to come out of this, right? And Romans 8 says if we love the Lord, that's what's going to be in store for us.
Amen.
Right? Out of our deep and painful, tragic circumstances, God's going to do something good in it, isn't He? We'd love to hear your thoughts as well on John 9:1-3. If you'd comment below.